Welcome everyone to yet another SDN Community Voices, a weekly touch point between you, the members and followers of the Service Design Network, and all the amazing voices we have in this big design community that we are all part from. My name is Felipe, and as always, I will be your ambassador and host. And today I'm very excited to bring Filip to the stage, talking a little bit about moving from design agency to a big company in Finland, where he was the first ever designer. So I'm very excited to hear a little bit more about it. I got a little bit of sneak peek just before, but I think it's going to be exciting for you too. But before we dive in, a quick reminder, as always, to drop your questions in the chat. We'll address them during our final Q&A segment. So just interact with us throughout the process. But now let's bring Filip to the stage and just let him introduce himself. Welcome.
Hello, Felipe. Hello, everyone. My name is Filip, and currently I am working as a service design lead at Outokumpu, a company that manufactures stainless steel. So something quite unusual, I think, for service design. Before, I've been working at the service design and research agencies and software houses, also in a quite big projects and infrastructural projects. But that's the first time I'm have this deep dive into the world of service design within the big organization.
Yeah, so just to start us off, how was that feeling? You started just about a month ago, right? So how was that feeling of moving from design agency work to then being the first ever designer in this big of a company?
Well, it's already 2 months. It
Okay.
will be 2 months tomorrow, actually.
Nice.
So
Wow.
yeah, to be honest, I had a lot of misconceptions about this. So at first, I was really thinking about this as yet another project I will just start and then we'll continue it for some time, which proved quite impossible quite early because when you are working in the agency, then you have this request for proposal, then you create the offer with the let's say project plan, and then you try to proceed with the next steps of the project to bring it to let's say fruition. Here it's a little bit different because suddenly there is a designer, an in-house designer, who is available to everyone, and during every single introductory meeting everyone were saying that you are finally here, we have so many things to do together. So it was a deep dive with little to no time for preparation in most cases. It's getting less hectic right now, but still being inside the organizations shows you completely different size of this organization. So I'm still getting used to it.
Yeah, you ended up working with the in-house designer to being the in-house designer, right?
Yeah, that's true. Of course, the people from other teams, it's not like there was no design at Outokumpu before, because there were several agencies and or designers from software houses that were supporting the teams, building the websites, let's say a customer portal. Many different systems are being used in such a big company. So that also builds some kind of general feeling about what design is and how it should work, but still it's completely different for both sides because right now I'm here all the time. I'm not here for the project or for the for consultancy hours. So it's a big difference for all of us right now.
Does it become in a way that you end up having to have this more systemic view of the whole company instead of just focusing on one part of the project or just one piece to the puzzle?
Mhm. Yeah, even in the agency projects, I was always trying to get the gist of these, let's say, systems around the service and products I was working on. So systems mapping was like one of the most used tools in the projects, but it's still a little bit different because, okay, even with the NDAs, so with the client, they won't tell you everything.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm inside, so I have a much better view on things, and also I had the excessive onboarding on the systems and the architecture, also from the both organizational and technology point of view. So yeah, right now my brain is filled with all of the different abbreviations and the names of the systems, which is actually kind of funny because I think that IT lacks the naming sense. So yeah, I have a really fast track course on IT architecture, for example.
So you end up also a lot of more connections with other areas there. Maybe as you're saying with IT, what are some of the other teams that you have been working more closely with now that maybe as a designer in an agency you weren't so close to?
Yeah, actually, my place in the organization is kind of specific because I'm in the customer experience and commerce team, which is the part of the bigger IT team that supports the whole company. Which means that the team I'm in, by definition, supports different areas from, let's say, service centers and sales, but also in a smaller scope, I guess, manufacturing, for example. The whole team I'm in, by definition, is supporting everyone. So,
Okay.
of course, I cannot tell too much because of yeah, company secrets and mysteries. But still, it's very close collaboration with teams from marketing and communications, from the, of course, brand team, but also from the sales team and client support, and also even these people from different locations that are working for the clients, for example, with the preparation of this stainless steel. So when I see it from the agency perspective, usually you had this core team that was working pretty closely with the agency. And then you either had to ask this core team to gather some information from other people, or you would create this, co-creation workshops or discovery workshops where you would invite people from different areas. But still, it was never so close and so frequent as I can do it now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, but then of course there's those different kind of situations. So what are some maybe learnings that you brought from your agency work that now you're trying to implement on the company?
Uh, I from my previous work, I have this, let's say, philosophy that service design is actually more about building the platform for communication for people from different teams with different interests, different goals, different, let's say, ways of working than the service design itself. I even think I have this sticker from Mark Stickdon book. It's 90% of service design is not a workshop. And yeah, sometimes people are thinking that the actual service design work is doing this workshop and then designing concepts. It's not. It's the preparing the ground for service design. Yeah, I think that Lou Down at the conference said that 90% of service design is preparing the ground for service design or something around it.
Yeah.
So right now it's very useful as an approach service design at the company. Because I can see, for example, that there are some topics that are very sensitive, that are very important for people from different teams, and service design can create this space to discuss it together and then to research it deeper in a deeper way, and then ideate on the solutions that could be, let's say, both useful and desirable for the clients, but also possible to implement without overloading people from different teams with work. So, yeah, service as a communication platform is quite useful approach.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Do you have maybe an example of how you used that previously with a client when you're working on the agency side?
Yeah, sure. I think that the biggest project I've been participating in was the project that was involving people from not one but from many companies in, let's say, some kind of consortium with people from the railways and the airports and some political organizations, and of course all of them wanted the project to succeed. But also all of them had different resources and different goals in mind. So we both had these regular meetings for representatives from these organizations, from these companies, so they would be on track with everything. But for every, for example, inside studio with the presentation of research work, we wanted to invite not only the core team from all of these companies, but also the people they thought that might be interested in these things. So a lot of stakeholders mapping, and then keeping to the plan of stakeholders communication, because it's quite often that we do the stakeholders mapping and then we just divide them into these who need to be collaborated with closely, these who need to be only informed, and then we just forget about it. So in this case, we wanted to keep the communication always on track. But also, it was very important to make the most crucial decisions together. So it's not like giving up on the responsibility, but making sure that the decision made will impact everyone in a positive or neutral way. So there won't be any victims of the decisions made without taking into consideration other people or teams.
Mhm. That's cool. And then how do you think that can translate better now with the company where you're working right now? So including
Mhm.
the stakeholders, making sure that you're not forgetting
Mhm.
about the secondary stakeholders throughout the
Mhm.
process.
Actually at Outokumpu we have the scaled agile framework implemented, at least in my team. So there is this whole ritual of planning and making sure that everything is in place. So people are usually quite well informed about what is being done at the company, and
Mm.
at any given moment they can, let's say, express their doubts or ideas for the project. Uh, so I have a pretty good ground to move forward. I think that the thing that is missing from a lot of companies, and something I would like to implement at Outokumpu as a next step in the design maturity journey, would be creating a place where people could find, for example, the research findings, or find the design artifacts that were created in different projects to make them reusable. Because there was a lot of design work in the past, and it's usually a pretty high quality work that was done. But people from different teams do not even know that there are these Figma files, these research
Mm.
reports, these customer journeys. So I would really love it if anyone looking for anything design related could find it easily and reuse it when needed, or ask questions about it if needed. I think that the first thing that was done, and I want to build on that upon that, is the customer journey,
Mm.
because there was a customer journey project with the agency some time ago. The map is being used by one team, and I can, for example, say that now there is the ambition to go further with it, to create more maps for different business areas, but also, for example, to keep it updated and to use it when making decisions on next steps in projects and in the company development.
Yeah, I think so important that, right? Because you have so many people doing great work in a company, and the bigger it is, maybe the harder it becomes to have that transparency and really see where everything is being done. And maybe even people are using different tools for the same purposes, and then it
Uh,
becomes a big mess
Not
of different things.
Not only different tools, actually, they even use different vocabulary,
Oh,
because
yeah.
depending on the background they have, because some people are, let's say, they are originating from the product management or from service design or from just this hard-headed IT that we all love. Uh, they can use different words for the same things. So, for example, that was kind of funny when people were asking me if I, as a service designer, will be working in this ITIL framework, service design, service transition, and service something else, which is very IT related. I don't know a thing about it, but that was the first association with the word service design.
Yeah.
So yeah, even creating a shared vocabulary is quite important to build this platform for designing great things together.
Yeah, and I think it goes with what we were talking right before we came to the live, that the conception of the word service design or whatever profession you have is always
Mm-hmm.
going to be on the eyes of the beholder, right? So I was telling you that I think so funny when I portray myself as a designer in
Mm-hmm.
Brazil, where I'm from, they think that I'm either a graphic designer or a product designer. But here in Scandinavia, in Sweden, a lot of times they think furniture designer. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really based on the cultural backgrounds and things like that. So how do you see that differently in Poland, where you're from, and then in Finland, where you are right now?
Well, I'm still in Poland because
Oh,
our IT hub is was created in Katowice in Poland. So I moved from Warsaw to Katowice, but I didn't move abroad.
mm,
But yeah, when it comes to the associations with designer, actually, last week or 2 weeks ago, there was this small, tiny, cute task that was, can you please help us designing roll-ups and banners for the conference? And I was like, okay, but I am service designer. How is it connected to my work? And then, but designer is a designer. You design things, so you should be able to design graphic designs. Luckily, I am able to design graphic designs because I've started. Prior to moving to UX design and then service design, I was doing graphic design for a little while. So maybe I'm a little bit rusty, but yeah, still graphic design was the first association for people from human resources, even though they were recruiting me. So yeah, you would think that they would strictly keep to my job description. But at the same time, I think that in Poland, product design or UX design is quite well known,
mm,
even more so in Finland. When it comes to the service design, it's a little bit more complicated because I feel like in Poland, service design is being associated with creating innovative services
mm,
because the word service translates to Polish as both usługa, which is like a single service, like banking service, like creating an account or something. But also it can be translated into obsługa, like in the service desk, client service. So
mm,
these bigger processes that are under the skin of the organization. And quite often, service designer is just the innovation designer. So someone who creates new things, not the whole scope that service design, in my opinion, applies to. Also, in some cases, service design is being seen as, let's say, in the relation like product designer and product manager, then we have the service designer and customer experience manager. So service designer is someone who is doing the tasks that were created by the customer experience manager. I hate it actually because but yeah, there's a lot of discussion around it. Lately, there was, I don't remember who was it exactly, but I think there was some event when they were pretty seriously considering if service design is a good name for this job position, for this scope of
mm.
work. And there were many different alternatives being considered, like customer journey manager or, yeah, customer experience designer. I'm not really sure about that. So I can feel the problem with service design because somehow service is being seen as, let's say, less understandable than product, because what is a
Mm,
service? That
yeah.
requires a definition, and there are a lot of them actually. So I can feel the pain.
Yeah, but I think that's quite funny actually, because if you think about nowadays, I think there was
Mhm,
a number from the Design Council that says that around 70% of all businesses are services in the end, right?
mhm,
So even companies that are very related to product design in a way,
mhm,
like Apple, they work with a service design kind of structure. It's just
mhm,
that in the end, the final touch point to the customer might be a product.
mhm,
So it's funny that we have such a service strong or heavy
mhm,
society, but then
mhm.
service design is not something that is easily recognizable as a term.
Yeah, but at the same time, one of the many definition and categorization ontologies of products is that within the product category we also have services. So
Mm,
yeah, it is kind of complex. Also, most of the things that product designers, the digital product designers, are designing are in fact digital services,
mm,
not products, because
yeah.
usually this product they are designing is only the gate to the service that is being available through this product. So uh, yeah, for some time I was really strictly against dividing design between product and service design, because I can see that the main difference is the actually process approach, because product management service design have a little bit of differences between them, but in the end we are creating quite similar things, maybe with a different width and depth behind it, but still it's similar.
Mm. Then with that, let's also, I see we already have a couple of questions. So let's open for some questions that people are watching us live. Just drop them in the comments. We're going to go through them and answer them live. To start off, I hate butchering names, but I think Piotr. Okay,
Piotr Jatkiewicz, I can
thank
help
you.
you.
Thank
Piotr
you. So
Jatkiewicz.
big organizations often come with years of legacy and deeply entrenched silos. Isn't the role of service design an almost impossible challenge when it comes to connecting different departments? Do you really think you have the power to drive meaningful change?
To be honest, I don't think I personally have this power to drive change, but I really believe that I'm in a good place to try to facilitate this change. Um, of course, it will depend on the organization, and when people don't want to change, you won't change them by force. Uh, in case of Outokumpu, I feel like the decision to hire service designer was well thought, and that they were prepared for the Sturm und Drang that will come with it. So they braced themselves for, for this change. But I can feel the problem, because mm, yeah, companies are still working in silos, and even to be honest, I was thinking some time ago that maybe the product management approach with product trios would break the silos, and it created another kind of silos of the product trios. So I really feel that somehow organizations want smaller teams that are working separately because it's more effective. But at the same time, I really feel that it's not about breaking the silos, but creating the connection between the silos. Maybe something like a matrix structure of interest in companies. So, yeah, I don't think it's an impossible challenge. I think it is a very tiresome and stressful challenge.
Fair. I think you also mentioned that from yesterday you're not the only designer also, so that also helps a little bit.
Yeah. I was another designer, UX designer, joined us from the day before yesterday. So yeah, now we are a duo, not a solo team.
Yeah. And then we have from Agatha. She's asking, Hi, Philip. We met briefly in Berlin at the conference. Nice to see you here. As I'm not familiar with the service design landscape in Poland, I wondered what the challenges are in working there. I noticed that service design is not a common job title. What do you think? Thanks.
Hi, Agatha. I remember you. Nice to see you here too. Yeah, service design is not a common thing in. Well, it is a common thing, but the service designer as a job position is not so common. And I think that I've seen some job offers last year, mainly in banking and telecoms, actually. So some companies are embracing the service design approach, usually in the innovation or customer experience teams. So it's also quite limited in the influence in the company. Uh, most of my friends who are working as service designers have job descriptions that are, let's say, fitting the job of service designer, but their actual role is UX designer or UX researcher. And I think that many people, many service designers are being hidden in companies as researchers and UX designers, sometimes as product managers even. That was funny because last year I was at the product conference with a talk, and after my presentation, I was asked, so what actually is the difference between the product manager and service designer? So yeah, I think that there are a lot of service designers that are hidden somewhere.
Yeah, I think definitely there's, and I also see a lot of people that come to service design. I remember I had Katie Sadler, she was a fellow ambassador, that she just realized at one point she was working with service design. And then she was like, oh, okay, that's what I'm working with. That's kind of the title of it.
Yeah, but
And
that,
then,
that was funny because one company last year even offered me the position of the chief marketing officer. And then when I was like, but why? I'm not from marketing. And they were like, yeah, but we can see a lot of things that are strictly connected to marketing in this wider sense, not just the communication and advertising, but marketing as, you know, this 4P of marketing: price, processes, people, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, service design is everywhere.
yeah. And then we have a question from Rebecca saying, I always find the conversation around what these roles and themes are called interesting. Each company has their own idea of what a service, a product, a customer experience is or should be. I wonder how these ideas ripple out into the ways they approach their work.
Yeah, I definitely agree with this statement that these discussions around this are very interesting, especially because these words really have a lot of power, and sometimes just your job position in your footer in the email makes people have a lot of ideas on what we are actually doing. So that is problematic. I remember when I was working in the my previous workplaces in the service in the design agency, and I started as the solution designer, which was like the strangest job position I've got in my life. And then I became the design strategist, and finally I was not the service design lead, but the design strategy lead. So we're using a lot of different words to make it easier for clients to understand what is the role of the team I was leading, because service design by itself was not clear enough for them. Then when I was working at the software house again, I came back there after a few years, and my position was principal strategy consultant, which was like there was no design at all in the in the name, and I was doing service design in the deepest sense of service design. So, and also, you know, this strategy as a word was pretty interesting for the clients, because strategy sounds serious. It sounds much more serious than, let's say, service design, because strategy means business goals, means money in the end. So yeah, that was funny. That's why for a long time I was defining myself as a design strategist, not a service designer. Only lately I decided to go with the service design as a position.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, with that, we are coming to the end of our time together. So I thank you very much, Filip, for your time, and for everybody that put any questions down.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
And to everybody that joined us online, that either asked a question or interacted here, it was just absolutely great to have you here. And also thank you, Filip, for lending your time and all your insights. As I have been saying, this community or this live stream really works every week because of all the amazing people that interact, but also the amazing guests that lend their time to be here. So just a big thank you for the whole community for joining and engaging live here. And stay connected with us through the social media. There's here the link tree with all the things that are happening right now. Later today, we're going to have the SDN Global Cafe. So stay tuned for that. If you're a member of SDN, that's part of the SDN membership. So be tuned to hear more about some amazing insights from amazing people. And thank you very much for your time. And until next Thursday.